So when it came to Final Fantasy XIII, I had criticisms, but credit where credit is due, it feels like the follow-up to XIII-2 tackles a lot of these criticisms head on. More freedom, more player agency, more side content, and deeper customization systems, including the monster system that lets you recruit and add monsters to your party. Love all that 100%, and it genuinely felt like the developers have been listening to the criticisms. This isn't just a sequel, it's a response to all the feedback surrounding number 13.
Sounds good.
I quite enjoyed my time replaying Final Fantasy XIII-2, and it's my favourite part of the 13 series. Okay, it's been 3 years since the ending of Final Fantasy XIII. Lightning has been rewritten out of history. No one remembers her apart from her sister Sarah. Turns out Lightning is in Valhalla and battling some new bad guy, Caius Ballad. Time itself is breaking apart, humanity is doomed. That's where we come in. We play Sarah and new guy, Noel, who's from the future.
Noel Christ.
We need to travel through time gates, repairing paradoxes, fixing the timeline, and ultimately making our way to Valhalla.
Bring my sister to me. Her name is Sarah.
Now, I don't think time travel and alternate realities always make for great storytelling, but I do think they make for potentially great gameplay elements. You explore different regions across different time periods, and your actions can create gameplay consequences that echo into future realities.
Come on, let's change the future.
XIII-2 really doubles down on player agency. You'll get to make decisions. Which regions to tackle first? How do I tackle an objective? Like, should I take this boss head on in hard mode, or do I want to find a way to weaken it first? You can also choose dialogue options, and I appreciate the inclusion of just the choice to be mean. Some of the options are just priceless, adding a bit of personality and texture that XIII didn't allow for.
What's that? I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
Before we get into the combat and the monster system, if you love RPGs, consider subscribing to Peter Bytes or giving the video a like. I'm a bit of an indie game developer who covers RPGs, and I'm replaying the whole Final Fantasy series while ranking them. Thank you.
And back to business.
The paradigm system returns, letting you stance between rolls on the fly. But personally, I think combat feels far more enjoyable this time around for a few reasons. For one, there are no level walls like in Final Fantasy XIII where you'd hit these progression caps and have to progress the story before you could level up some more. You also get these new little meaningful choices, choosing the bonuses you want as you level up. Do I want a bonus to a certain role, more accessory slots, or do I want to unlock a new role? I always like this kind of stuff in RPGs, adding another layer of player agency and a bit more depth to the combat through customization.
You guys play rough, Hoopa.
But the big, most impactful new addition is the monster system. When you defeat enemies, there's a chance to obtain their crystal. These monsters can then join you as your third party member, and they're fully customizable. You can feed these monsters items to boost stats, or infuse monsters together to unlock new abilities. Throughout my playthrough, I was constantly swapping monsters to stronger ones. My personal favourites included Chocobos, the massive Gigantor that barely fits on the screen, and Flanitor, one of my favourite monster designs from the original game. This guy became my primary healer for a large portion of the game. He's a lifesaver. These systems made the combat so much more enjoyable. It feels a little bit more personal, and there's something satisfying and addictive about building up my own team of monsters.
Exactly.
Sometimes I'd even go out my way to grind monsters that looked cool just to get their crystals and add them to my ranks. Love it, it's pretty fun. So as we're progressing the game, we're going to bump into all sorts of returning characters from XIII, like Snow and Hope, and we're going to get their assistance. We'll also bump into the new big bad guy, Caius. He can also travel through time, and he's not too happy with us changing the timeline.
To change history is a sin.
Caius Ballad is sworn to protect a young seeress called Yule, who's cursed to die over and over again in every timeline. It's a pretty tragic story. Caius has got a big brain plan, and he's taken it upon himself to break the cycle by destroying everything.
You're going to destroy history just so you can save Yule?
Yes.
He's kind of mad, but not in a cartoony villain way. He's slowly broken down and traumatized by watching Yule die over and over across time, which is tragic, and this brought about his twisted ideology. Little side note, it just so happens that XIII-2 features some of my favourite voice actors, Laura Bailey as Sarah and Liam O'Brien as Caius, which really helps bring these characters to life.
You shall pay for your crimes in blood.
So we're going to clash with this guy throughout the story, and our ultimate goal being to stop him and reunite with Lightning in Valhalla. To reach that point, we'll need to collect fragments and gate seals to unlock new time gates and travel between eras. These fragments might be hidden in the world, might be behind a side quest, or they might require you to trigger alternative timelines and paradoxes. You don't need every fragment to finish the game, but collecting more opens up extra areas, side content, and rewards. As you progress, you'll also unlock fragment skills, which grant helpful abilities like gliding and quality of life boosts. Not to mention, if you go for 100% completion and find every fragment, you'll unlock the game's true ending, which is a pretty sweet incentive to go for 100%.
Sounds like a job for us, alright.
In another attempt to bring back that classic Final Fantasy feel, minigames return in a big way. There's even Serendipity, a region dedicated entirely to them. Slot machines, poker, chocobo racing, where you can race using the chocobos you've captured through the monster system. Love that, 100%.
Not bad, huh?
There's puzzles scattered throughout the game too, including clock-based ones in the Time's Labyrinth. Mass-based puzzles where the number you land on determines how many spaces you move, and you have to activate every spot without repeating one. It sounds simple, but it can get pretty frustrating. When it comes to locations and regions, I've got three favourites. While Urba was my personal favourite in the original 13, it doesn't quite have the same atmosphere here. It feels very different. That said, I did really enjoy getting to properly visit and explore New Bodom a bit this time around. My third favourite region might have to be Augusta Tower. It's sleek and technologically advanced, and I love how calm it feels at first with that cool blue backdrop. And it flips. The more futuristic version of this tower is drenched in chaotic red as a rampant proto-Fel sea turns the place hostile. Each floor feels like its own puzzle too, with rooms you have to physically rotate to progress. It's a pretty nifty bit of design. My second favourite has to be the Arclight Step. This is where 13 originally finally opened up a bit. You've got a fairly wide open area to explore, and as you progress the quests here, you unlock a weather control device. Changing the weather doesn't just alter the visuals, it completely shifts the ecosystem. Different monsters appear depending on the conditions, which adds this dynamic layer to the region and makes it feel a bit more alive. And my favourite region is definitely Academia. It's this towering, futuristic cityscape that just looks incredible. What I love is that you visit Academia in different time periods. In one version, the city is under attack by a Fel sea that's transforming residents into Seath, and it basically turns into this cyberpunk zombie invasion. The red tones, the stormy skies, the chaos, it gives the whole place this apocalyptic energy that I absolutely love. This also serves as the endgame zone leading into the finale, where time is distorted and everything's gone a bit topsy-turvy. You're navigating this maze of fragmented platforms and it just feels like such a cool second building to the finale. 13-2 doesn't just change up the world, it experiments with it. It gives us agency and dynamic elements like the weather or alternative timelines, puzzles, chaos, atmosphere, and that variety is what makes its region so much more memorable this time around.
Right! It's exactly like that!
Now, the first time I played 13-2, there were some special challenges in a Coliseum area, but coming back years later, there's tons more thanks to the DLC. You can challenge Gilgamesh, originally from Final Fantasy V, who ends up drifting through the void and popping up in other games like he does here. Ultros and Typhon from number 6 show up too. I was genuinely happy to see Pui Pui, the little alien from 8, get some love. Omega even appears. He's a super boss that appears across the series. There's also challenges from 13 itself, including Snow, Lightning, Amador, and Jill Nabat. Well mentioned felt underdeveloped in the original game, so it's actually pretty cool to get a bit more from her here.
I am your waking nightmare!
On top of that, there are 3 story DLC episodes. Heads or Tails is a minigame focus episode with Saj. Perpetual Battlefield adds some story encounters in the Coliseum, and Requiem of the Goddess expands on Lightning's story.
Foolishness.
Once you complete them, you unlock those characters for use in the main game, which I think is a pretty awesome reward.
Yes, let's change the future.
So let's wrap up the story and endgame. Throughout, we meet Hope and travel back and forth through time, helping him try and protect Cocoon.
I wanted to change history, make things better.
Just to recap, Cocoon is the floating will suspended above Grand Pulse, held aloft by Crystal thanks to Fang and Vanille's sacrifice at the end of 13. That was my personal favourite story bit of 13, but Cocoon's unstable and eventually it's destined to fall. The new plan is to let it collapse and replace it with a new artificial cocoon, giving humanity a controlled place to live in the future. But I've always wondered why humanity couldn't just live on Grand Pulse instead. Sure, it's dangerous and filled with monsters, but they've got 400 years to adapt to that world, and it would feel more natural and less complicated than building an entirely new artificial one. I don't get it.
Tell me about it.
But that plan and our assistance ends up severely disrupting the timeline, leading to a final confrontation with an unhappy Caius Ballad in Valhalla. And I've got to admit, it's an epic finale. You fight 3 behemoths at once, and it's a completely badass encounter. They just tower above you, posing in this almost arrogant, godlike way, looking down on you, just making you feel insignificant. Lightning is turned to crystal on the goddess's throne, and the timeline shifts so drastically that Sarah dies as the new cocoon rises into the sky. The story then ends on a cliffhanger with the words "to be continued," which leads directly into 13-3, a game I don't have fond memories of, so part of me wishes this had more finality.
None of this makes sense.
Overall, I thought the story was decent. I do think time travel and alternate realities work better as a gameplay device than as a core plot device. Death doesn't really mean anything in a world with time travel. You know characters are going to come back to life and not stay dead. That said, I had a good time with 13-2. The return to player agency, the monster system, the abundance of side content, and fragment hunting were all great additions. Minigames were nice to see return, even if none of them really blew me away, and those clock puzzles were genuinely frustrating. I think I appreciate the game even more after replaying 13 recently with the story fresh in my mind. You're dying across every timeline adds a layer of tragedy, and I can see what they were going for with Caius. I just wish it wasn't left hanging with a "to be continued." Overall, I enjoyed 13-2 far more than 13, especially in terms of gameplay, and for that reason, I'm giving it a B rank. Next up, I'll either be looking at Dragon Age Origins, diving into more Final Fantasy, or covering another RPG. In the meanwhile, check out my top 10 most emotional moments in Final Fantasy, or my return to the original Kingdom Hearts. I enjoyed that too. Have a good one.